Hey guys, Jonathan here, back again with another video. In this video, we're going to learn about the concept of templates. Now, what are templates? Templates are HTML files that we may want to return as responses. In these cases, we've been returning strings and numbers. However, there may reach a time where I want to add some HTML to be able to render dynamic content to the browser. So let's try returning some HTML. So we can say app.route, and then we say that we want to create a route that goes to, let me say, contacts. Then we may create the corresponding view functions, or we may say contacts page. And then when we go to the contacts page, we can return HTML as a string. So we may return an h1 that says contacts page. So we close this. And when we save, we can be able to navigate to the contacts page by saying we're going to go and say contacts. So this returns HTML with an h1 of contacts page. However, we can also inspect and see. So we go to view page source, and this will enable us to see that our HTML document is returning an h1 that has a text contacts page. This is useful. However, the problem is, how can we be able to render a full HTML page using Flask? So we're going to go and create a templates folder. So we're going to say new folder and name it templates. So you always have to be careful about how you name this folder. It has to be in lowercase and it has to be templates. Do not call it any other name. So by creating our templates folder, this is where I may specify the various files we may want to create. So we may want to create an index.html file that may act as our first file. So let's say we create an index.html file. When we go back, we also have an about page and a login page, so we can be able to do the same thing. So I'm going to say login.html. We can be able to also create another page called let's say contacts.html. We can also be able to add another file called about.html. So I'm going to close some of this and I edit some HTML within them. I'm going to also close that. Now for us to render HTML pages, we use a function called render template that comes within Flask. So I'm going to go up and import this function. So I'm going to say from Flask import render template. And instead of saying hello world, I am going to come and say render template, and then I'm going to specify the template name. So I'm going to say index.html. So I'm going to save that. Now when I navigate back to the application in the browser and go to the root URL, I'm going to have an empty HTML file being rendered to the browser. Now I'm going to make sure I add in some content, so I'm going to create a simple HTML structure by pressing the exclamation mark and tab. So this creates a simple HTML5 structure. So I'll go to document and name this Flask app series, and I'm going to add an h1 with home page. So if I save this, I am going to save, and you're going to see that we are having home page as our h1. So if we go and inspect the element, in this case, we are going to see that our template is being rendered as a full HTML document. It is much more different than when we rendered it as one HTML element. So we can also add various links. So I'm going to add an nav, and in this nav I'm going to add links. So these links are going to link to the various parts of the web application. Now I'm going to use a function called URL4 that is going to be able to return the various URLs of these view functions. So what URL4 does is to simply take in the name of the view function. So we're going to say URL4, then we specify the view function. In this case, it's going to be index. And when you go back to our app.py, we can see that the view function with the name index is the one that returns HTML page index.html. Now I'll go and also create other routes. So I'm going to call this, and I'm going to copy this and paste it for the various routes you have. So I'm going to call this about. I'm going to call this about, and I'm also going to say URL4. So this is going to be contacts. So I'm going to change this to, let me see what I call the view function. So in this case, I call the about page. So I'm going to say about page, and I'm also going to create the one for the login. So I'm going to say this is going to be login, and when I go here, what I may want to do is to copy the view function, which is login page. So I'm going to say login page, and this is going to be for the login page. Now I'll have to also create one for the contacts page. I'll say URL4. This is going to be, let's see, it's going to be, let's navigate, it's going to be contacts page. So I write contacts page, and we're going to go to contacts. And when I save, we're going to be able to refresh, and we're going to see the various routes to our application. I'm going to repeat this HTML by copying it in the various HTML5 files you have. So I'm going to copy this and then change this to about page, and I'm going to also copy this to login.html. So I'm going to copy it and say it's going to be the login page. So I'm going to go to about contacts. So I'm going to copy this also in the contacts page, and I'm going to say that this is going to be contacts page. So when I save this and also save this and save this, I'm also going to go and save the login file. Now after saving this, I'm going to go to the browser. I'm going to try to navigate to the different routes within our application. So I'm going to go to home and go to about. So this is the about page. However, the links are not there. Let's check what has gone wrong. So when you go to about.html, I have in the various routes being displayed. Let's try to refresh and we see. So when we go to about.html, we have to change this. We actually forgot to render the templates instead. So I'm going to go to say render template. Now in this case, I'm going to render about.html. When I go to login, I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to say render template login.html. Now for now, we may not need these routes, so I'm going to delete them. Or let me just comment them. So I'm going to comment them and say adding parameters to URLs and save. So I also go for the contacts page and change that. So I'll just come and say render template, and this will be contacts layout.html and then save. So when I go to the browser, I'll have the different links that navigate to the various files. So when I go to the home page, I'll be able to see home page, about page, login page, and this is going to be the contacts page. So you have noticed that I'm using the same HTML for all the different HTML files that I may have for the application. And the problem is that we may have one layout that can extend to the various pages, the various HTML files of the application. Now let me introduce you to a concept called template inheritance. Now template inheritance is a concept where we can have one layout file that can be inherited from, that can be used by all the pages that go to the different routes to the different pages of our application. So I'm going to create that in a file I'm going to create a new file and call it layout.html. It doesn't really matter what you call it. So this layout.html file is going to contain all the HTML that is similar in all the pages. So I may copy this whole entire, I'm going to copy this whole entire HTML file and go and paste it in layout.html just like this. And then as you notice, I was using some calibre syntax. Now this is what we call a templating engine. Now what a templating engine does is to help us to put the logic from the server within our browser. For example, in this case, we wanted to do some Python within the HTML. So we wanted to make use of the URL for function. So that helps us to use the URL for function within our front end, within our HTML templates. So what these double curly braces are, what we call a variable. So if you want to call a variable or a function or an expression, you can call it within this, as you're going to see in the next few seconds. So after putting in our layout.html, we're going to create a block. So we're going to create a block, and this is what we call a tag. So a tag is created by creating two curly braces, and then you put two percentage signs within these curly braces. So I'm going to say block content, and then I'm going to also close the block by saying end content. So what this does is to create that part of the application that will be shared to the various types of our application. Now, since homepage is not going to be the only page, so what I'm going to do is to use Ginger 2 syntax to just put in the title of the corresponding page you may be at. So I'm going to call this title. So I'm going to write this variable title, and I'm going to define it on the various routes of the application. So I may also use if statements by saying that if the title exists, so I'm going to say if title. So then using the general, you may have this auto completed for you just like I do. So please make sure I install it. So I write if and then it completes for me that block. Now I'll say if I have the title, what I'll do is to say that I want to return the title. So I write variable, which is var. If you have general installed, you'll be able to complete by saying tab, and then the two calibrations will be completed for you. So if I have a title, I can be able to pass in that I have a title. Actually, you can be able to say that this is our Flask application, the title of title. We can also be able to pass in some logic. However, if we don't have it, we may just return Flask application. Now, what we mean by extending this layout is we are going to go, let me try for the index.html file. I'm just going to come and use a tag called extends. So I'm going to say extends, and I pass in the layout file. So I'm going to say layout.html. Now this means that this file is going to borrow its layout from the layout.html file. Now just like you see in the layout.html file, we're having block content and end block content. So I'm going to copy this and paste them within index.html. So I'm going to paste them within index.html. Now, what this is going to do is simply to every content that we shall have for the index.html file will be just here. So let me put a paragraph that's going to say ORM. So I'm just going to put some dummy text. Actually, let me not put a dummy text. Let me say this is home page. I'm going to say home page, and if I go, I can do the same for the various pages. So instead of saying all this HTML, I'll delete it and then say I'll just go and copy the layout as it is in the index.html file and paste it here and save. However, I'll change this to about page. So I'm going to say about page, and I'll go to the contacts page and also highlight everything, delete, paste, and I'll say um, this is going to be the contacts page. So I'm going to say contacts page. When I save it, I'm going to go to login. I'm going to control it and then paste. So I'm going to say this is our login page. When I save, I'm going to be able to go to our front end and refresh. So when I refresh, we're going to see that since we don't have a title, we're just having Flask app. Now let me show you how we can display these variables within the browser. So just like in the index.html, specify that when we have a title, we need to show that the title is title. So we'll have to mention this within our front end. So I'm going to go to app.py, and within my render template function, I'll always have to specify what is called a context. Now a context is a dictionary of all the variables you may want to use at the client side. So I may create a variable called title and then call this is our home page. So I may say home page. And if I want to display this, I may say that the title is equal to the title. However, this can become so hectic as you may have very many variables that work within the same render template function. So I'm going to create a dictionary which I may call context, and this is going to be a dictionary having key of title, and then the title is going to be that title. So all I'll have to do is to come and put the context within the render template function by saying star context. So this means that our title is going to be with the context, and this context will be rendered with the HTML file. So if I save and go back to our browser, if I navigate to the home page, we'll be able to see our title as home page. So if I go and do the same for the different routes, so I'm going to copy this code and paste it in the next route. So I'm going to paste this and do the same. So I'm going to say star context. And what we're going to do is this is going to be about page. So I'm going to say about page, and we may also be able to do the same. So I'm going to paste here, and this is going to be the login page. Say login page, and I'm going to say the same thing. I'm going to just put the context. So this is going to be the context. I also do the same thing for the contacts page. So I'll paste this, and we'll have contacts page. So this will be contacts page. So the title will be that, and then we put a context. So this is going to be context. When we save, our server is going to restart. Everything is okay. So we're going to go to the browser, try to navigate to the different parts of our application. So we're going to go to the home page, the about page, the login page, the contacts page, and our information is being shown as we wanted. Now the next thing we're going to do is to try to render some data to the browser. So what I'm going to do is to create a list of dummy posts. So I'm going to create a list of dummy posts. So I am going to create a list of posts. So I'm going to say posts, and it's going to be a dummy database. It's going to be a list of dictionaries. So these posts have IDs. So the first post is going to have an ID of 1, and the next is going to be a title. So this title may be something like what are good. What a good day. What a good day. Then we may have some content like content. So the content may be to go to go swimming at the beach. So when we have this post, I'm going to create other posts. So I'll put a comma here and copy this. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to pretty much paste this. So this is going to act like our database that has posts. However, when we go on, we may need a real database. So this is going to be our dummy memory database. So it's going to be our list containing our various posts. So this is ID 3 and this is going to be ID 4. So I'll also be able to change. So I'm going to change Python. So it's going to be Python is fine. And then I go and change this to I am learning it. Then I'll go and say, so this is what I did. So I'm going to say coding is easy. Actually, say it's not easy. I'll say coding is hard. So I'll say, so learn it better. Now the next post is I'm going to put in some dummy such as I love Python. So I'm going to change this also to something like it is easy. So I am having my posts which are within posts list, and this is just acting as an in-memory database that I can be able to use. In this case, I don't have one. So we're going to see how we can be able to return a list of these posts within the front end. So what I'll do is to come and put posts as post within the view function on our index route. Then what I'll do is to just come in my context and return posts as posts. So if I save, I can be able to go to index.html and return these posts as blog posts. So what I'll do is to go to the index.html page, and then I may create a simple div. So I may create a div with a class of posts. So I may complete by saying, so this is going to create a div with class of posts. Now after this, I'm going to use a for loop. So a for loop is written by saying for. When you're using Gianero, it's going to autocomplete for you. So I may say for post in posts, and I may say that I want to create a div with a class of post, and every post is going to have this div with a class of post. So we're going to have, let's say, an h4 that is going to contain. So we're going to return the post is title. So we're going to say post dot title, and then we're also going to return a paragraph that is containing post dot the content of the post. Now we may also want to return the ID, so we may say want the ID, so we need to say post dot ID and then space this. So if I save, we're going to go back to our browser, and when you go to the home page, we have posts reference before assignment. Now let's see how this has happened. So we say post is equal to post. However, we can also eliminate this line since you have post being defined globally. You can save and refresh. So we have all our blog posts being returned to the browser. Now, in this tutorial, we have been able to learn about templates. We've been introduced to templating with Ginger 2. We've also been introduced to how we can be able to return data from the server-side code to the client. We've been able to learn how to render templates with HTML, and we've also been able to learn about template inheritance. If you feel you've enjoyed this video and learned from it, please like it, comment it, and share. And please Stick around for more content like this. Thank you for watching. Enjoy other videos.